What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Fireside Giants. I'm your host, Anthony Rivardo, joined by my co-host, Alex Wilson. And guys, the preseason's over. Roster cuts are over. Free agency, waiver wire, all of that stuff in the past. And now we are looking ahead to the future. But really, in the present, we've got a regular season game right around the corner. And I can't wait. Giants football is almost back, baby. I cannot wait for it. So we're going to start previewing week one. We're going to start talking about this roster, taking a look at the starting lineup on the offensive and defensive side of the ball, and breaking down where the Giants are strong, where they might be weak, and where we can go and what we can expect in week one, and so on and so forth. So that's going to be the main topic of discussion in today's episode, but we're not going to start there. There was some kind of league-shattering news that broke yesterday afternoon, and that is Micah Parsons out of the division. Let's go. Micah Parsons was traded to the Green Bay Packers for 2 first-round picks and a washed-up defensive lineman in Kenny Clark. The Cowboys' defense right now, if you look at it on paper, got to be the worst unit in the NFL. I mean, it is disgusting, an absolute atrocity without Micah Parsons on the field. They already lost DeMarcus Lawrence. Trayvon Diggs is constantly, perpetually injured. I am not afraid of that Dallas defense. In fact, I am licking my chops looking at that Dallas defense. I cannot wait for Malik Neighbors to go for 150 yards in week 2. That's going to be awesome. So, Alex, we're going to start here with the Micah Parsons trade. What are your thoughts on it? What's your reaction to it? And what do you think it means for our New York Giants?
I mean, guys, this is a huge deal for the Giants, but it's also a huge deal for the Eagles and the Commanders because they don't have to face off against Micah Parsons twice a year. We do still have to play him in week 11. But that, I know there was some people in the comments and some videos recently saying oh, there's no way Dallas is letting him go. Like I said, I thought that relationship was way too far gone to be repaired, and clearly that was the case. And now they're Parsons gets paid $188 million, retired his mom. Good for him. That's awesome. Obviously, the Cowboys are left trying to convince themselves they made the right decision. Kenny Clark is a Pro Bowl caliber defensive lineman, but Micah Parsons is a generational talent, and that's not overstating it. He is a 26-year-old generational pass rusher, one of the best pass rushers the league may ever see. And the Cowboys are trying to convince themselves they made a good move. And they got 2 first-round picks and Kenny Clark in return. Clark's good, don't get me wrong, but this guy Jerry Jones trying to convince us with the way they've been drafting lately that they're going to turn those 2 first-round picks. By the way, the Packers are going to be a good football team, a really good football team. Those first-round picks are going to be late first-round picks. We're talking about borderline second-round picks, and I don't really see how the Cowboys visualize them striking gold twice. Maybe they get lucky and hit one of those picks and they end up becoming a Pro Bowler, maybe, but it still does not equate to what Micah Parsons brings to the field, which is just game-wrecking talent every single week. Every single week. It doesn't take days off. This dude is dominant every time he plays. So, Giants, what a break. They get to go to Arlington. They get to beat the absolute crap out of the Cowboys defense, which on paper, like you said, is cheeks, dude. It is bad. They have a couple of really injury-prone players. Their defensive line is a joke. Their pass rushers are a joke. They can't stop the run. And you talked about Malik Neighbors dominating. I'm thinking Tyrone Tracy is going to dominate. That's who I'm looking at as guy that could probably put up 100 yards in the game and have a big performance. Also, definitely falling into my hot take territory of 1,000 yards and 400 receiving. But I'll tell you what, Tyrone Tracy, that's the guy I'm looking at. The running game for the Giants against Dallas, which is going to eat. Without Parsons there. Kenny Clark's a good player, but they have a lot of weaknesses. So this is going to be fun. I've been waiting a decade for the Giants to walk into Arlington and beat the living shit out of the Cowboys in front of Jerry Jones. I want to see fourth quarter, camera pan to Jerry, and he's dead-faced walking out of his suite. That's what I want to see. Normally, it's John Mara throwing chairs and stuff and doing crazy things and walking out and not talking to reporters and pissed off. I think that this might be shifting here. The Giants might not be the 4th team in the NFC East anymore. They might be the 3rd, maybe even the 2nd if we start to get some momentum. Who knows? There's a lot to like about this team moving forward, and the Cowboys just shot themselves in the foot on 2 mystery boxes and draft picks and Kenny Clark. This is a great day to be a Giants fan.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting for all fans of the NFC East. Like you said at the beginning, this is beneficial for the Eagles, the Commanders, and the New York Giants. You said that you're looking at Tyrone Tracy to run all over that defense. Again, I'm going back to Malik Neighbors. I am looking at the Giants' offense to finally be able to pass protect against the Dallas Cowboys. I mean, our offensive line has gotten worked by Micah Parsons and that pass rush for years, but now that defensive line looks toasted, man. I'm not afraid of that Dallas defensive line without Micah Parsons. I know we're supposed to be looking ahead to week 1, and we're kind of jumping the gun here, looking ahead to week 2, but I think our offensive line looks much improved this summer. Going up against a weakened Dallas defensive line in week 2, I'm expecting Russell Wilson to have all day long to cook, throw those moon balls, and connect with Malik Neighbors in Dallas. It's going to be a fun one. I cannot wait for that week 2 matchup, and I feel a lot more optimistic about it. And this is what I was saying to you, Alex. If you look at the schedule, on paper, the hardest in the league, toughest strength of schedule, it's already weakening. It's already loosening up. You're looking at week 2 with Dallas defense without Micah Parsons. That game is now significantly more winnable. Week 3, the Chiefs without Rashee Rice, significantly more winnable. Week 4, without Rashawn Slater on the Chargers, significantly more winnable. And even if you look at week 1, Samuel Cosmi out for Washington, Terry McLaurin rusty because he hasn't practiced at all with Jaden Daniels this summer. And that's where we will transition over to our week 1 kind of preview here, looking at the Giants starting offense and defense. But before we do dive into that topic, I'll just say a couple things. First of all, if you're enjoying this episode, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Second of all, we got a new channel on the horizons. I can't wait. We just announced it yesterday on the Fireside Giants social media pages. Fireside Football. That's going to be launching very soon here. So if you liked our little chat, yes, it was from the Giants perspective, but our chat on Micah Parsons, and want to hear more of our analysis in an unbiased fashion for storylines and topics around the NFL, stay tuned. We're going to have a special announcement coming very soon for Fireside Football. And if you want to join the Fireside team, make sure to go over to the Fireside Giants Instagram, click the link in the bio, and fill out that internship form, and we'll get back to you soon. So let's dive in, Alex, and take a look at this Giants starting offense and defense. Now, the number one thing that stands out to me is the upgraded quarterback. I don't think that can be understated. I think going into this season, there is a lot more optimism surrounding this team because Daniel Jones is not the starter. That is a big deal for this team. The offense has more life and energy to it. The playmakers have been popping all summer long. They've been giving glowing reviews to Russell Wilson. And honestly, Russell Wilson has had some very impressive moments throughout the summer. He looks like he wants to turn the clock back. He looks like he is hungry to win in New York, be a big staple in the Big Apple. And I've been very impressed with everything that I've seen from this offense. But again, it starts with Russell Wilson bringing some competency and some experience to that quarterback room. How are you feeling about Russ as he enters? I believe this is the 14th season of his career, 10-time Pro Bowler, future Hall of Famer, but now here with the New York Giants. How are you feeling when you're taking a look at Russell Wilson leading this team in week 1?
I mean, it's night and day, man. This is a established veteran. This is a guy that has a Super Bowl under his belt, Pro Bowls, experience, leadership qualities. You know, he's outspoken. The Giants elevated Russell Wilson's, don't get me wrong, towards the end of his career, end of his prime, 100%, if not past it. But like, this is another standard and benchmark the Giants are setting for themselves. They now get to start from, you know, Russell Wilson's average, I guess you could say, over the course of his career. Like, this is a much better place to build a foundation from and let your young guy in Jackson Dart learn. It's going to be competent. It's going to be exciting. The downfield ball and passes are going to be more accurate and sustainable and part of this offense. This entire offense is going to be elevated a lot. And here's the thing. Do I expect the Giants to have a top 10 offense? No, I don't. But guys, like, we've had a bottom 3 offense for like 5 of the last 6 years, right? Like, we forget what it's like to even be competent. That's how bad it's been for us. We forget what that looks like. The Giants, I think, are going to have a much more like efficient and just overall productive unit. And like, that starts with Russell Wilson, starts with the quarterback position, and it's going to be much more enjoyable to watch. Every game should be somewhat competitive, right? It should be competitive, especially with our defense and the investments they've made there. So Russell Wilson brings leadership quality, a higher standard, experience, and he also just brings like that passion and care. I know he knows he's only here for 1 year, but he is honored to be a Giant. You know what I mean? He really likes the fact that he's a Giant. And I think it's going to be pretty fun to see how this offense takes a step forward moving into the upcoming season.
Yeah, it's going to be great. Andrew Thomas, let's go there, and let's really talk about what this offensive line could look like in week 1 without him. He gave some very discouraging responses to the media yesterday about his injury recovery. Now, there was a lot of optimism over the last couple of weeks with his recovery. He returned to practice. He put the pads on this week as well, but then he missed another practice. It seems like the Giants are going 1 day on, 1 day off with him as they ramp him up. But if you're going 1 day on, 1 day off with less than a week to go until week 1, you're probably not ready to play. And that's the main concern here. It doesn't look like Andrew Thomas is going to suit up in week 1. If he does, he's not at full capacity, not at full strength. And in that case, I think you give him more time to rest and get ready for maybe week 2, maybe week 3. So again, Andrew Thomas's comments, Alex, I don't know if you have a reaction to them. Do you think he's going to play in week 1? Because the way that he was speaking, it just sounded to me like he doesn't feel like his body is fully ready, and he's probably going to sit that one out.
I mean, let's be logical. His body is not ready. You know what I mean? Like, he has not been conditioning the way that he needs to be to play a full game. He just started really getting into team practices. He just got activated off the PUP list. This is not a player that's, I think, even close to being ready. He has to get the conditioning right. He has to gain chemistry. He has a new quarterback that he hasn't had any reps with at all, and the cadences and timing. This is a totally different situation than I think we thought we'd be in right now with Andrew Thomas. I actually don't think we'll see him until week 3. That's my hot take right now. But the question becomes, who plays left tackle in the meantime? I think that's part of that discussion. I think obviously part of what the starting unit will look like. I personally feel that Marcus Bowe should be the starting left tackle in week 1. I know they signed James Hudson to be that guy and to be that backup, but I think Bowe earned their job straight up. Like, he earned it. I know that he wasn't necessarily starting every game, but when he was playing, when he was starting, when he was on the field, he looked the better player. And he looked like he was adjusting. And listen, the truth is, Bowe is a long-term piece here. The Giants are in a transition season. That experience is so much more important to Bowe than it is to James Hudson. So listen, when it comes to Marcus Bowe, I do think, you can always start him in the game and see how he does. And if he looks good, you just keep him in. If not, you can always swap James Hudson back in if need be. But I think that live real-time experience for Bowe is so important for his growth. I think that in the transition year, this makes a lot of sense for him to be the starter in week 1 at left tackle. Maybe some people disagree with that, but I think that it's in the team's best interest because I think Bowe's better than James Hudson right now.
I mean, listen, I don't know if I'd be willing to say that he's better than James Hudson right now. I think I probably would be, to be completely honest, but I do have to try and scale it back a little bit and relax because we haven't seen Marcus Bowe go up against starting competition on an NFL regular season Sunday. And so there is probably going to be a learning curve there. There's going to be a little bit of a process in getting up to speed and fully competing with regular everyday starters. So I don't think it's the worst idea to send James Hudson out there. I think the ceiling is infinitely higher with Marcus Bowe if he goes out there and starts. I would argue there's a chance he would be the better player in week 1. Marcus Bowe really flashed some impressive stuff during the preseason, but I almost want to protect the rookie here. 5th-round pick, I don't want to throw him into the fire too soon. I wouldn't hate the idea of having James Hudson go out there and kind of take on the brunt of the work early and then eventually transitioning Marcus Bowe in there if need be. But honestly, not. I'm with you, Alex. Start Marcus Bowe if Andrew Thomas isn't ready. Let's get that rookie in there and see what his ceiling is. That's the best way to develop sometimes, is just to get those reps. But now taking a look at the rest of this team, staying on the offensive side of the ball, Alex, what's your level of concern here with Theo Johnson, another player who hasn't been practicing a lot? We're talking about Andrew Thomas and how he might miss week 1. I don't think Theo Johnson is going to miss week 1, but could he be a little bit rusty, not practicing the past week and change? I think this is a guy that the Giants have really high expectations for. They're trying to build an offense that really revolves around the tight end in some ways. That's always been the bread and butter for Russell Wilson, is to hit that tight end on those screens in the flat and even hit them vertical, which is what Theo Johnson is so good at. I think he's going to play an integral role for this offense, but I don't want him to get off to a slow start now that he's dealing with this injury or whatever the case is behind the scenes here that's caused him to miss practice. So do you think Theo Johnson's going to be out there in week 1? And do you think that he's going to have the same level of expected impact now that he has missed some of these practices?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's been out there enough that he won't necessarily skip a beat, but I do think physically we'll see how capable he is. Obviously, the more reps, the better. There's going to be a transition period where you're going from practice to regular season performance. Like, they're not going to be playing in midseason form in week 1, obviously. That goes for everybody. Even Neighbors missed a lot of time, but I don't expect him to be kind of held back or, not be productive. So when it comes to Theo Johnson, I think the Giants feel he can be a really key component in their passing game as someone that attacks the seams, a guy that can get into the flats. He has good hands. He sheds a lot of tacklers. I really like Theo Johnson as a pure player, his size and everything he brings to the game and his speed, but health has been a problem. This is a guy that missed a good chunk of games last year, and he's already missed some preseason games and obviously a lot of practice. So I need to see more consistency from him, but I think we saw flashes of what he can do last season, and there's a good player in there. I really hope he stays healthy because I think he is going to become a critical component of this offense moving forward.
Yeah, me too. I think he's going to be huge for Russell Wilson. And so we're kind of taking a look at some of these players who are injured, right, who missed some time. Let's talk Cam Scatterboo. I know Giants fans are really excited about him. I'm one of the most excited Giants fans about Scatterboo because I can't wait all season long to hit my signature and patented Scatterbooms all throughout those game live streams this season. But Alex, looking at this backfield, Devin Singletary makes the roster. We weren't totally surprised by that. But Cam Scatterboo is that second string running back, and first string running back, of course, being your guy, Tyrone Tracy, who you have really high hopes for this season. What do you expect from this rushing game when we get into week 1 against Washington? I mean, do you think Cam Scatterboo is really going to get involved, or is this going to be the Tyrone Tracy show right out of the gate?
I think it's going to be the Tyrone Tracy show out of the gate. He was really, really good when he was called on last season to replace Singletary. Had some fumbling issues, and he assumed that role, and he never gave it back. He was really, really, really encouraging. The way he runs, he's slippery. His ability to break tackles and get through those gaps. He has the making of a running back. I think could be very underrated. Again, I'm going to say it again for people that are into fantasy football. He's being drafted behind guys like Cooper Kupp and Stephon Diggs right now. These guys are cooked. Diggs is coming off an ACL tear, and Cooper Kupp has been declining for 3 straight years. And I don't see how Tyrone Tracy is worse than these players. He is an absolute steal in the 7th round, 8th round of drafts right now. And there's a really good reason to believe he's going to catch more passes. He dropped so many last season. So I think he's going to catch more passes. He's going to be more of a factor out of the backfield as a receiver, but also he's a good player in the running game. The Giants, this offensive line looks like it's taken a step forward. We saw it in the running game in the preseason. But also look what Turbo Miller did in the receiving game. If Tracy can catch the damn ball, he's going to have a lot of yards in the receiving game and a lot of touches there. So, that's what he was known for at Purdue. He was a transition receiver. When it comes to Cam Scatterboo, I definitely think he'll be the 3rd down back when he is healthy. And I think that Devin Singletary will probably fill in as the primary backup if any injuries happen to Tyrone Tracy as the lead back, kind of the workhorse. So I think they have a nice layered approach here where they do have a primary starter, a 3rd down back, and then they have a solid veteran backup that can take the reins if need be.
Yeah, and I like that approach. I think this committee in the backfield is going to be really beneficial for the New York Giants to have, and I think there's a high ceiling for both Scatterboo and Tyrone Tracy. I'm really excited for this. Now, last position group to look at on the offensive side of the ball before we flip over to this really exciting defense, wide receiver. I've said it once and I'll say it again. Malik Neighbors is going for the Triple Crown, baby. I mean, he's got a quarterback that knows how to throw the deep ball. He's got a quarterback that knows how to get the ball out on time, hit these guys in stride, and that's going to be huge for Neighbors. I think when you look at his stats last year, 1,200 yards, 7 touchdowns, broke the record for most receptions by a rookie wide receiver in NFL history. I mean, absolute stud, one of the best wide receivers in the NFL, and he caught only 7 of those receptions, 20-plus yards downfield. That stat always blows my effing mind, and I cannot wait for this year to see him run underneath some of those moon balls, to see him get hit down the seam, to see him get hit along the sidelines and take it to the house on those breakaway receptions for long ball TDs. It's going to be really exciting. I think it's going to be a huge year for Malik Neighbors. I think he's going to take his game to another level and be even better than he was as a rookie. But I also think Wan'Dale Robinson is going to get more yards after the catch as a result of getting some balls in stride. I think Darius Slayton has a chance to finally crack that 800 receiving yard mark this season, having a quarterback who can throw that deep ball, because I think we all forget the last couple of years, we haven't seen a lot of those breakaway receptions from Slayton either. We haven't seen him gain a ton of deep yardage. But in the past, early on in his career, that's what he was best at, man. That he entered the league as a deep threat, and he started out as a strong, deep receiving receiver, and that part of his game has dwindled as a result of having poor quarterback play. But now, with Russell Wilson in the lineup, it's going to be a major impact on all of these receivers, including Wan'Dale, including big play Slay, and of course, Malik Neighbors. Now, the depth behind these guys a little thin. I don't want to see a lot of Bo Collins in week 1. I'll be honest with you. I don't want to see any Gunnar Olszewski on the offensive side of the ball in week 1. But that main 3, and I didn't even mention Jalen Hyatt, whatever, but that main 3 right there with Slayton, with Robinson, and of course with Malik Neighbors, there's a lot to be excited about there. And I think we could see career years from all 3 of those guys now that they have a decent enough quarterback throwing the football in week 1.
100%. I mean, listen, the receiver unit, I'll preface by saying I think there is flaws there. They have neighbors and everything behind them is like, let's find out and let's wait and see. I think Darius Slayton is capable of being a solid player. He was pretty quiet this summer with how they used him, but I think that's because they were trying to get other guys opportunity. Obviously neighbors did not play in the preseason. Slayton did not really get much looks. I don't even know if he did really play. I didn't see him at all out there, but they were trying to get Hyatt more action. Obviously, didn't see much from Wandale either, except for that first preseason game. So it sounds like they kind of were bubble wrapping, protecting their guys from preseason football, really using them in practice more. But I will say this, like they have neighbors, the superstar, they have Slayton, like I'd say upside is a solid like I'd say low end WR2 right now. He's a high end WR3. I think we're kind of in agreement on that. And then Wandale Robinson is that after the catch guy. They're trying to push him downfield a little bit more, kind of expand his game. He could be a much better player than we've seen in recent years. And I think that's what we're going to see personally. I think we're going to see a much better version of Wandale than we've seen because they use him as a punching bag in this offense, short yard concepts, and just getting the crap beat out of him every week. So I think we'll see a better version of Wandale. But behind those guys, it's a lot of what ifs, right? Bo Collins, we don't know what we're going to get from Bo Collins. We saw great, and we saw drops, and we saw everything in between. Jalen Hyatt, we saw not so much great, but we saw some moments of, okay, like he can catch. He got the one touchdown pass, but then he dropped 2 other passes. So, a lot of what ifs, a lot of what if in between. And I don't know, like right now, I feel like the Giants can't sustain much injury at a lot of different spots. Like offensive line, they can't really sustain much injury. Receiver, they can't really sustain much injury. I am concerned about that. And I think that, we're just going to have to hope for the best in those instances. But receiver unit, definitely it's top heavy. That's what I would say. It's top heavy. Everything below neighbors is very much, we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. But neighbors, that's all you need, man. Star of the show, one of the best receivers in the sport. I can't wait to watch him go crazy this year with Russell Wilson throwing the ball. Alex, let's talk about this defense, though, because this is the crown jewel of this team. I mean, when you're looking at this lineup, that pass rush should be elite. There's no other way to describe it. This should be an elite unit. You've got Abdul Carter, one of the most exciting young rookie pass rushers to enter the NFL since fellow Penn State alum Micah Parsons. I mean, he gets compared to him all the time. He's got the potential to be just as good as him. And you know what? Micah Parsons himself has said he's got the potential to be even better. So I'll take Micah's word for it. And I'll say Abdul Carter is the new Micah Parsons of the NFC East. Micah's out, Abdul in. Start for the terror, Washington and Philadelphia and Dallas. You got to fear for your life now with Abdul Carter in this division wearing big blue. But it's not just him. It's Brian Burns, who has put up double-digit sacks before, and we know goes for at least 8 sacks a season, essentially. We've got Dexter Lawrence, the best nose tackle in football. Pass rushing extraordinaire. Absolute beast against the run, too. And even Kayvon Thibodeau. We forget about him a lot, but he is a former top 5 pick who's definitely had some really shining bright moments in this league before. Has he had the consistency that we all hoped for? Probably not. But he has definitely flashed elite potential with several games here. I always think back to that Washington game that he single-handedly won for the New York Giants with that strip sack, recovery fumble, touchdown, and that big stop on the goal line against, I think that was Taylor Heineke. This is a couple seasons ago now, but again, those flashes of great potential have been there for Kayvon Thibodeau. And that's that quartet of pass rushers that pretty much no other team has. Nobody else possesses that level of upside in their pass rushing ranks that the Giants have. And I'm not even digging into these other guys like Chauncey Golston, like Darius Alexander, who's definitely got potential, and some of these other guys in that depth ranks. But that top 4 pass rushers, Alex, that is a unit to be excited about. Only one team in NFL history has had 4 pass rushers each eclipse double-digit sacks in a single season. That was the 2022 Philadelphia Eagles. But I got to say this, not banking on it to happen, but it is certainly a possibility for the Giants to get 4 guys with double-digit sacks this season. That's how much talent they have on this defensive line. That is rare, and that is why I'm so optimistic about this team entering week 1.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely would be. I'd be blown away if they had 4 guys with double-digit sacks, but the Giants have that level of talent. That's the kind of exciting part. The other exciting part about the defensive line is that they can sustain any injuries. Like they have the talent to say, oh, if someone goes down, the next man up is, it could possibly be an elite pass rusher. So that's pretty exciting. I think Kayvon Thibodeau's upside, maybe I wouldn't label it elite, but I'd say it's above average. Pretty exciting to see the depth of this defensive line finally be developed. And it's been a hallmark kind of part of the Giants over the last decades, just since I was a kid. They've always had these elite pass rushers, Justin Tuck and Michael Strahan and JPP and OCU Manure, like so many just big names over the years. And finally, the downside of missing out on Cam Ward is you landed Abdul Carter, who gives that Giants like kind of feeling of being an elite pass rush again, that dominance, like going into Arlington and just destroying the Cowboys defense or offensive line, and just wrecking havoc and really just forcing Dak Prescott into mistakes and vice versa, with, maybe not vice versa, but like in addition to with Jaden Daniels and hopefully Jalen Hurts too. So this pass rush, this rotating four is exciting. And Abdul Carter is just a deployable weapon when it comes to, you can put him inside, you can put him outside. It's going to be exciting, man. This defensive line has more talent than I've seen. And they have enough talent to change the course of a game. And the Giants haven't had a unit that could change the course of a game in probably a decade. So it's exciting. The expectations are sky high. Now they have to actually live up to the hype.
Absolutely. That's always step one, is elevate those expectations for Giants fans. And step two is where they fumble. Can they execute? Can they deliver on those expectations? This year, I really do think they have a chance of doing that. But the rest of this revamped defense, Alex, let's preview that before we close. The Giants invested over $100 million into their secondary this offseason. They said, hey, this is our biggest weakness. We need a new cornerback. We need a new safety. We need some leadership in this group. And they found those things. They got a cornerback with tremendous ball skills. Paulson Adebo, 28 pass breakups over the last couple of seasons, 10 interceptions in his career. This guy knows how to track and find and get his hands on the football. He's great in coverage, but he's even better when that ball is in the air. That was the Giants' biggest kryptonite from a pass coverage standpoint last year. They had the 31st ranked, I think, interceptions in the league. They were not able to take away the football. They had a bunch of cornerbacks just getting head topped, play in and play out. Deontay Banks not getting that head turned around. We've talked about that a million times. But now Paulson Adebo, he addresses that immediate need. He goes in there and says, I have some of the best ball skills of any cornerback in this league. I know how to track the football. I break up the pass. I get interceptions. And that's why I think this defense is going to be a lot smoother this season, because they're no longer going to be giving up contested catch after contested catch. They have some guys who can make a play on the ball in the air. That's Paulson Adebo. That's what he's going to bring to this team. And that's also Javon Holland. A lot of people forget this guy has a nose for the football. Not only does he make plays when the ball is in the air, but when the ball is on the ground, he finds ways to punch it out. He forces fumbles. He lays big hits. He gets sacks. He is a versatile player while also being a great roaming deep safety in coverage. So those two additions, Alex, I don't think it can be stated enough how impactful those two players can be. Those free agent signings, they're kind of those buy low options. You've got both of them coming off of down years / injured seasons. Giants got them at nice price tags. But if you look at each of those contracts, if Paulson Adebo develops into a CB1, if Javon Holland returns to a Pro Bowl level form, look at the way that those two markets, cornerback and safety, have grown exponentially over the last couple of off seasons. These could look like bargain deals if these guys exceed what they've done in the past and live up to the expectations that the Giants have set out there for them. So I'm really excited about those two additions. And we're not even discussing guys like Drew Phillips going into year 2, Deontay Banks going into year 3, and what he could potentially possess in his upgraded development. So I just think those two additions right there in the secondary, Alex, they're going to make all the world of a difference. This Giants defense should force some turnovers and definitely have some stronger play in coverage. How are you feeling about the additions of Javon Holland and Paulson Adebo?
I feel like, you described it well, and I'll kind of add on to it. If you have two players and a 4-year sample size for each player, and they really only had one down year, both of them happened to be in 2024, one of them because of a significant injury, and the other one playing on a Miami defense or Miami team that just really was in a bad situation and really uninspired, most of them. So, the Giants walked into the offseason in free agency and found two players that they had one bad year each, really had one bad year each, whether it be injury or, poor performance, over a 4-year sample size. So, that's 25% of their careers up to this point where they didn't really live up to expectations for whatever reason. The Giants were able to capitalize on that, both in contract years, both bought low, both on 3-year contracts that both have outs after the second year that have minimal dead money. Like you said, if Paulson Adebo becomes that CB1, I think his average cost, was it $18 million? That is a steal for active CB1s in today's market, a steal for good players. Both of them are only 25 years old. Javon Holland, he was one of the best ball hawk safeties in football, before last season. So we'll cough it up as an anomaly. Another guy, 2 years out after the second season. There's a lot to like about Javon Holland and what he does for this team. Brings experience, he brings youth, he brings speed, he brings intelligence, and he brings security over the top. Right, Deonte Banks. He got cooked last year downfield, but that's because we had Tyler Nubin, a rookie playing free safety, and he clearly was still grasping the position. The Giants realized, well, he's actually better in the box. So, I do think that they've figured out the strengths of this team and the weaknesses, and they've pushed on the strengths. They've really pressed the right buttons. We've seen it with Jackson Dart and how they've utilized his development, but also, fixing some big needs after Xavier McKinney's departure, and then figuring out kind of Banks at this point. But yeah, I'm really excited about Paulson Adebo, Javon Holland, both players. So far, I'm really happy with the early returns. But again, we'll get the real numbers and the real information once the season starts.
For sure. And, since we are kind of trying to focus on what this week one lineup will look like for the Giants, I'm excited that we have somebody who can match up week one with Terry McLaurin. That's a big deal for the Giants because, listen, I love Deonte Banks. I'm a huge fan of his. But the way he plays and the way he was struggling in the first 2 seasons of his career, Terry McLaurin was consistently getting the better of him. He was scoring touchdowns. He was making contested catches. And he was even just beating him on simple man-to-man coverage, slant routes, and stuff like that. But you know what? Paulson Adebo, he's got a better fighting chance in those reps. And I think Deonte Banks stepping back into that CB2 role, it's going to be really beneficial for him to take some of that pressure off of him and really start to crank up that development going into this 3rd season of his career, which is definitely going to be a crucial season of his career. So I love what the Giants have built this offseason. Yes, I was very critical of Joe Shane last year. How could I not be? The Giants went 3-14. Yeah, I was calling for heads to roll. I wanted the Giants to clean house going into the offseason. But I said, hey, if they're keeping them, I'm going to keep an open mind with them. And I'm going to hope that they prove me wrong and do something special this offseason. And I have to say, Alex, I truly do feel like that's what they did. I think they did something special. I think they found ways to upgrade this roster all across the board in very clever manners as well, bringing in a veteran like Russ with another veteran like Jameis to totally revamp the culture while also adding some great young talent in Jackson Dart, talking about the quarterback room, addressing specific needs like the ball skills being lacking on this team with Paulson and Debo, adding to that pass rush, saying, hey, we're taking BPA at number 3 overall, and we're going to bring in a potentially generational talent, and even finding a young stud on the offensive line in the 5th round with Marcus Bowe all across the board. I feel more optimistic about this Giants team going into week one, and I am hoping that we do deliver with that upset win on the road versus the Commanders. I'll say this. Last thing that I got to say, Alex, I'll let you get your final takes in here as well before we wrap, but I think Washington's a little overrated. I hate to say it, but I think they're a little overrated, man. Jaden Daniels is excellent. He's an elite MVP-level quarterback, but you look at the rest of that roster, it's being elevated by Jaden Daniels. That's really what we're looking at here. This is a Jaden Daniels team, and outside of that, not a ton to really, really be excited about, in my opinion. And I think maybe I'm talking some S. Maybe I'm going to regret this in a couple weeks. I don't know, and I don't care. Right now, I'm feeling good about this Giants team going into week one.
Yeah, I mean, listen, when you look at Jaden Daniels, you guys know I was a huge fan of him coming out of the draft, and rightfully so. But I'll say this, his rookie season was, well, if not the best rookie season of a quarterback ever. So, naturally, we have to assume there's going to be a level of regression. So if that's the case, and we saw a lot, like Bobby Wagner had a really good year, like they had some veterans, like patchwork players that stepped up and looked fantastic. I don't think that that's going to happen again. I do think they're going to come back down to earth a little bit. And if they do, the Giants will be waiting and lying in wait, and they'll be praying, on Jaden Daniels, especially a guy like Abdul Carter, who shoots out of the backfield like a freaking cannon. Like, I'm excited to see that quarterback spy kind of element to the Giants defense. But listen, why don't we go through just each individual unit, just give our starting, what we think the starting unit will look like week one. And I think that'll kind of round out. We'll probably do this, I wouldn't say every week, but we'll definitely address changes. Andrew Thomas getting back in the lineup and stuff like that, and big storylines. But, I'll let you start with the offense and kind of going through who you think is going to be starting at each individual spot.
I think the offense is pretty chalk. I don't think we're going to see much change there. It's going to be quarterback Russell Wilson, running back Tyrone Tracy Jr. The receivers are going to be on the X. It's Malik Neighbors. On the Z, it's Darius Slayton. And in the slot, it's going to be Wan'Dale Robinson. Your Y, your tight end, is going to be Theo Johnson, assuming he's healthy, and I think he will be. And then that offensive line, Jermaine Illuminor at right tackle, Greg Van Roten at right guard, John Michael Schmitz at center, left guard John Runyon Jr., and left tackle probably James Hudson, unless Andrew Thomas is ready to go. Then it's going to be him.
Yeah, you're probably right. I would love to see Marcus Bowe at left tackle instead, but I think that I'm in agreement with you. I have everything the same. I think that's pretty obvious. Defensively, I think going from left to right, I guess you could say I think they had Abdul Carter lined up a lot. Actually, they had him kind of swapping pretty frequently, but you have Brian Burns on the right side mostly.
Let me get a little nerdy here with the defense. I'm going to really break this down. I think the Giants' base defense is going to be a nickel. I think they're going to run a 4-2-5 defense as their base. They're very thin at linebacker, and I think that they kind of structured this roster. If you look at how they cut the roster down, how they got rid of some of these linebackers, I don't think they're going to have more than 2 linebackers on the field for the majority of their reps. And I think that Drew Phillips is a very valuable player to them, that they want to get as many reps as possible. So rather than looking at this as a base 3-4 or 4-3 defense, look at it as a base nickel 4-2-5. And in that 4, you're going to have your right edge being Brian Burns over the left tackle. You're going to have your left edge being Kayvon Thibodeau over the right tackle. And those 2 interior defensive linemen, it's going to be a rotation, of course, but Dexter Lawrence and Abdul Carter. That's your 4. Your 2 is Bobby Okereke and Micah McFadden. And your 5, of course, being outside cornerbacks, Paulson Adebo, Deontay Banks, that nickel cornerback being Drew Phillips, and those 2 safeties being our guys, Javon Holland and Tyler Newman. That's what I think the Giants' base defense is going to look like. Mm-hmm. Now, they're definitely going to mix it around. It's a very multiple front with Shane Bowen. They're going to run that 4-3 where you're going to see probably Carter and Burns on the edge, and then you're going to have on the interior a combo of Roy Robertson Harris and Dexter Lawrence. And maybe in that 3-4, you kind of see something similar there where it's Dexter Lawrence as the nose and those 3 techs with Roy Robertson Harris and Rakeem Nunez. But I think their base defense is going to be that nickel 4-2-5, and I'm really excited for it.
I think the one change I think they might make is putting Cordell Flott instead of Deontay Banks. I am curious. It's possible. I think Flott looked pretty good in the preseason. I think if we're looking at it from pure preseason summer performance, I think Flott won the job. But we'll see how things go. I think it's going to be a position battle that rolls into the regular season for sure. But I agree with you. That sounds pretty accurate to me. Maybe earlier downs, they'll have 2 bigger guys in there. Obviously Dexter Lawrence and maybe Roy Robertson Harris, and then passing down second, third downs. We'll see more of that nickel 4-2-5 kind of equation there, which is, probably going to be the majority. So, definitely a much improved roster, definitely a lot more starting talent, some better depth at key spots. They're still missing a couple things, but what team doesn't have some weaknesses? I think this is still a work in progress. It is a transition year, but for this team to look like this in a transition year to Jackson Dart, pretty good. Jackson Dart, he's going to step into a pretty good situation with a pretty solid foundation around him. And I think that's why he's not starting right now, is because they want this team to look good and feel good and have confidence and have strong points and be able to recognize their weaknesses before they throw their young guy into the fire.
For sure. Transition year is a good way to describe it. We're going from Russell Wilson into a 2026 led by Jackson Dart, but the hope is that this roster improves for Jackson Dart to step into a really good situation next year. But the only way that's going to be the case is if the Giants are competent and win games this year. And God, I pray we're competent. God, I pray that we do win games this year. I cannot sit through another 3 or 5 win season. I think the Vegas line of 5.5 wins is too low. I think the Giants are winning a minimum of 7, and F it, baby. I'm feeling 9 wins and a playoff berth once again, just like 2022, a magical run for Brian Daboll and the New York Giants. Let's get it. So I'm really excited, as you all can tell, very optimistic for the season and just really happy that football is finally back. A reminder, guys, make sure to like this episode if you did enjoy and subscribe. A lot of you are probably watching this thinking that you're subscribed because you probably watch us every day and not realizing you have yet to actually hit that subscription button. So make sure you do go smash that subscribe button. And if you're a long-term viewer, you really love what we do, hit that join button if you want to be a member of the channel as well. Support us a little extra. Also get some emojis, some custom emojis and stuff like that. So we've got a lot of fun stuff planned this season on Fireside Giants. And as I mentioned near the beginning of this episode, Fireside Football launching soon. If you have experience doing graphic design, video editing, or you want to get experience, you want to get involved and start to kind of get your toes dipped into the water of the sports media field, check out the form, fill it out, and we'll hopefully get back to you soon. Fireside Football, the form is in the bio on the Fireside Giants Instagram. Really excited to launch that project. Can't wait to get that going and can't wait for this season. It's going to be a really fun one. So leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, ring the bell so you don't miss an episode, comment your thoughts down below. Make sure if you're listening on Apple or Spotify, you leave us a 5-star review and go ahead and follow us on all of our social media channels at Fireside Giants. Without further ado, I'll catch you on the next one. Have a good one and let's go New York Football Giants.
Perfect.